Welcome back to NTheRealestWay podcast with Marqes Smith, where we talk about so many topics in the realest way. On this podcast episode, I want to talk about being honest. That's the title of this podcast episode. Let's be honest. I don't know if anybody noticed, but I didn't record a podcast. Well, I did record a podcast. I didn't post a podcast last weekend or last week, mainly because I was going through a time in my life, like right now, where I didn't know who I was and who I am right now. There were days like this morning I woke up and I kid you not, I would wake up and be like, who am I? Like, who am I? Like, I would literally sit there and ask myself that question. I didn't know who I was. So when I would make a podcast episode, I would try to find reasons to be the other version of who I was, if that makes sense. Like, oh, I used to talk about these topics this way, so now I need to do this that way in the same way that I did the other stuff so that I can be that person for this podcast. And I wanted my podcast to be something where it stayed constant and consistent, but to understand that this podcast is a living and growing thing in itself. And it's going to change. It's going to be different. It's going to be so many more things that I haven't done before. And that's the beauty of this podcast episode, In the Realest Way. And I'm not trying to bash everything that I did before. But right now, this is who I am. And well, you can say, well, Marqes, you don't know who you are. And that's the fun thing about it. That's the beautiful thing about it. I don't know who I am, but I know that this is where I need to be right now. I know this is where I need to be. So I'm okay. I'm okay with not knowing who I am. I am fine with that. And as you can see, I got this blanket right here because the weather in South Korea is getting cold. And I woke up and mid-afternoon, it was 32 degrees. I said, what in the world is going on? I hate to go back to work. I just would have hated it, okay? I'm going to be frozen up in there. I'm going to be freezing. But yeah, I wanted to have a conversation about that, why I didn't post. And I had a podcast episode made, but it wasn't authentic. And I was lying to myself and thinking I was fooling other people by attempting to post it. And yeah, I had to accept that. Like with everything, right? We have to accept it. First, we have to understand it, accept it. Then we can make change. But it's not going to happen any other way. Okay, so yeah. The conversation that's about to be had is a little crazy, okay? It's in the realest way, right? And I was filtering myself before. I was telling myself that, oh, they don't need to know about this and they don't need to know about that because I'm going to lose viewers. I'm going to lose people who actually watch me. The friends that I used to have in high school, the people who watch me that are like adults and all these things, people are looking at me. And I had to realize that I'm my own person. And I was my own person then. But of course, I had limitations. I couldn't do everything that I wanted to do. I was a child. But now I'm moving into my adult years. Technically, I am an adult, yes. But I still have a lot of growing and learning to do. So the first conversation I want to have in the realest way is about my sexuality. What? Yes, my sexuality. I have so many discussions. I have so many things that I can just say, so many stories to talk about. But the first thing I want to say is to be authentically you. No matter what nobody else says, no matter what they feel, no matter who's watching, authentically you. Be yourself. And if that means you got to walk around with a little sass and a little attitude, just a little bit, right? You ain't hurt nobody. If you got to walk like that and talk like that, you do that because that's authentically you. And if you, who you are, your sexuality, if it's going over here, and it's not about, let me rephrase myself. It's not about the way that you act. It's about being who you are. And being who you are is a part of how you act, okay? Let me be very specific about that. Because there's conversations where it's like, well, Smith, hold on, let me get myself, because this is about to be a word, okay? Well, Smith, how do you people always say there's a way that you act with your sexuality, right? I use the example of, oh, if you're gay, you act very feminine, you want to be a woman, all these conversations that we have, right? You acting gay is not a thing. Being gay is not a personality. It is a sexuality, okay? You cannot act a certain way. You can't act black. You can't act gay. You act as yourself. There's numerous gay people. There's numerous people who have a sexuality. And yes, we are all humans. We all have things where some people are more masculine than others. Some are more feminine. It's okay, but you can't act gay. I've known numerous less, the less populated then, but I know more masculine people that are gay than you would think. And it's not a very rare occurrence. So I just wanted them to be clear, okay? You can't act gay. You can't act black. There's no way to act. You just be. And I can get into the whole black conversation in a minute, but I want to stay on one topic right now. There's nothing wrong with authentically being yourself. There's nothing wrong with being who you are. Don't let anybody tell you any different. And when I was in high school, a lot of people, they look at me and they're like, oh yeah. I wouldn't say the adults. Maybe they knew, I don't know. I didn't really have a conversation with them like that about that, but everybody at school, oh my goodness, why do you talk like that? You talk so like a girl. You talk like a girl. You're so feminine. And it would literally beat me down to the ground. I would literally be so sad, so depressed. Like there was one time I was in band. I was really young. Like I was just getting in, I feel like. And I think it was after we had band practice. It was during school, right? You know how we have band practice during school, then we have it after school. It was during school after that when we were going to another class period. And I was just walking around and somehow, I don't know how, I don't know if it was on my stand or some other stand, but I seen Marqes is gay and all some other stuff. I really don't remember all that was said, and I was just so sad. I was crying. And I remember my old band teacher, Miss Wilkinson, she was something. That's all I'm gonna say about Miss Wilkinson, okay? She was something. No, she was a good teacher. Just different people are different. That's what it means. They're not gonna be the same. I think we destroy all that people can be because we want them to be a certain way. And that's not how life works. That's not how you live. But oh goodness, I was just crying and bawling my eyes out. I was just literally bawling and crying. I was so sad. Just know that I was so sad. I was defeated and I just kept going. Life, I just kept moving. Because what else am I going to do, right? People are always talking about me. Even before that day when that happened, they were saying, Smith this, Smith that, Smith is, and I just, I had my days. Okay? But it didn't stop me from moving forward. And I just kept going. I kept going. So that was one occurrence that, yeah, it was hard out there. It's hard out there in them streets, okay? It was numerous times. And I remember one time I was in 4-H. And this is a sad thing about it. I never had real authentic male friends. Like my grandmother, my family would always say, you need to be around, not all of them, but some of them would say, you need to be around more men. You need to have more friends that are boys and all this stuff. And I never could do it because I was always an outcast. Every time, even when I was pursuing friends that were boys, it never worked out. And even at the time right now, like, okay, so let me talk about who I am currently right now. So the cause of me not having any friends that were boys was because of my sexuality, the way I acted, right? The effect was when I got older, I never had any interest in being friends with any males because it always had to be something of a romantic relationship. Every time I had a connection with a male, it had to have been something that was a romantic relationship. And that was the effect of me not having any friends when I was younger. Because when I didn't have any friends when I was younger, and they were all women, they were all females, that was it. I I didn't know how to be friends with any males. And it always became something that was romantic, something that was sexual when I got older. Because even when I was younger, you're not thinking about it. Or at least I wasn't thinking about sex or being sexual. I just thought about being me and just being happy. I was a child. You're not thinking about those things when you're a child. People would tell me like, Smith, when did you know? When did you know you were gay? It's not that you know. It isn't just, okay, you can say that, right? You can say it clicked in your head, like, boom, okay, I'm gay. But like when I was younger, I told these people all the time, when I knew, I didn't know, but like when I was like, yeah, something's going on. Something is going on in my mind. When I was watching Danny Phantom, the ghost, he turned into a ghost or whatever. I said, I don't know what's with this man. Well, he can get my number right now. I'll give it to him, okay? I will give it to him right now. And yeah, I was like, okay, yeah, something's going on. And I didn't think really too much of it. I was a child, like, and I was just living life. I was just living, just going, and you're not thinking about that. I promise you. You're not thinking, I was not thinking about that when I was younger. All I wanted was friends. I wanted people to hang around, have a good time with. So go back to the examples of, for camp and all these times when I would go out into the world and people would have this perception of what they thought it was because of other people. We're children, right? We listen to what our parents are telling us. So when these people are going out into environments, these children, they're implementing what you're telling them to, and regardless if you believe it or not, they're implementing everything that you're telling them or you're saying around them, and they're going to do that in other environments. So what, cause and effect? The cause was you telling them this stuff out behind closed doors, and now it's affecting other people's lives. Now they're writing things on people's what is the music stand? I don't know if it's another word for it, but the music stand. They wrote it on the music stand. Marques Gay, all this other crazy stuff on there. And it's been numerous times when I would go in the bathroom and I would see it all on the walls and stuff. I had a crazy childhood. It is a lot to unpack in my childhood, but it never came to a point where I lied. There's been plenty of times when I would just be like, I just wish I wasn't gay. And I hate how I came out. I wish I never came out. I wish I never made a post about it. I wish I never went around telling people, oh yeah, this is who I am, and this is accept me for who I am, love me for who I am. I wish I never did that, because it's not something, straight people don't have to do it. People who are straight they're cool, or who consider themselves to be straight, they don't have to go out and say, hey mom, hey dad, I'm gay. I'm gay, damn. I'm straight. They don't have to do that. Why do we feel like we need to do that? It doesn't make sense. And of course it builds a community, right? When you come out and say, hey, I know how you feel. I know who you are. I see you. But you don't have to come out in order for that to happen. You can still have a community without making it seem like a part of yourself needs to be celebrated like it's a holiday or something. It's who you are, and it's always been who you are. And yeah, I wish I never came out. I wish I never said anything, but the only reason I realized that I said anything was because it gave other people power. When I was younger, and even now, I always had a voice. I always had something to say, and people listened. Did they agree with everything I said? No. But I had a voice, and people would listen to what I said, even at a young age. So when I was outwardly living as I am right now, and that doesn't mean you're going around saying, oh, hey, I'm gay, by the way. Hey, I'm gay. Oh, I like this, I like that. No, you're just living and you're just being who you are. When you're out there and just doing that, people are happy, and that gives them power. That gives them strength to be who they are. Because if it was anything else, I probably would have never said anything. Besides the instance that happened when we can't talk about that. Now that was something crazy. It be your own people. And I can't even. I'm gonna tell a little story, right? When I was in high school, I had a little boyfriend. Just a little boyfriend. And it was not high school. It was middle school. And one thing led to another. And I told my best friend, and not thought was my best friend, and she told other people, and it became this whole debacle. And then lied and said she didn't say anything, even though there's little to very little people who could have the power to tell something that they don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, you had to have known it. And when I say very few people knew. So it be your own people, right? So, and those kind of things, it affects other people's lives. Like, they don't realize how much of an impact that has on not just your life, my life, but their life. You don't know what's going on behind closed doors. You saying that, you forcing them to come out in a way to be like that, it could cause so many issues at home. Abuse, neglect, anything. I really wish we were more cautious of what we did. You know, like, this has an effect. Okay, so let's think about it. We don't have to do this. I mean, we were children. So, I mean, I guess that's the excuse, right? But again, I feel like anything could be understood better if we have a conversation about it. If we, talk about it and get to an understanding. So, yeah, I had a very crazy childhood, especially because of my sexuality. A lot of things happened because of it. And I couldn't live out loud as much as I wanted to, even though I did for other people. Again, I always did something for other people. I always lived for other people. I would not have came out if I did not need to. If it wasn't a sense of strength for people and other people in their life, I would have never done it. Never. Because I just would rather have lived a lie. So I'm kind of glad somebody, pushed me to be outwardly truthful. And in terms of sexuality, I know I say I'm gay, but I really don't even associate with that. I wish I never associated with that. I'd rather just be me, free. Yes, I'm attracted to men. I'm just gonna live life like I want to live it. And I don't want to be tied down to labels. I don't want to. You can be tied to whatever you want to be. If you want to call yourself whatever you want to call you, it's power to you. I love you for you being you. But for me specifically, I do not want to be labeled that. Do not label me that. Now, has there been times when I called myself that in public so other people could understand easier than me just saying everything I just said right now? Yes, it is easier. It's easier for other people to understand. But then I came to a point where it's like, I don't care if you don't understand. I'm going to say how I feel, and I'm going to tell you who I am if you ask me. And if you're confused, you're confused. I don't need to keep explaining myself to you. You asked me to show you who I am, so I show you. If you don't understand, then you don't understand. It has nothing to do with me. I think I said everything I wanted to say about sexuality and all that handy dandy stuff. And in terms of religion, I wouldn't consider myself Christian. I say I am tied to Christianity, but I don't believe that I am a Christian. I believe in God, yes, but everything. And this is like we transition into a whole nother conversation right now. I used to find myself scared of God and of religion because of what other people were doing. They were implementing things that they didn't even know about. They didn't even realize the impact of what they were doing, and that they were actually pushing people away from Christianity, from religion, making people not want to believe in it and have a connection to God. They were doing that by the ways they were going about it. And I'm not saying you can't have an opinion about it. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is everything that you do has a cause and effect. And people don't realize how much of an impact in what they do and how they treat people affects their entire life. There were days when I was like, I don't even want to be associated with Christianity. If this is what the people are like here, get me away. I want to be gone. I want to be done. We have to realize that everything we do has a cause and effect. And you treating people how you're treating them is not going to get them to the gates of heaven. They're not going to get there by you calling them sinners and you're going to hell and all these other things. They're not going to get there that way. If you think they're going to get there that way, then you keep it on, keep on. And you're going to see how when you get up there and when you talk to God yourself, you're going to see actually what you did and not what they did, but what you did. Because in all truth, when you get to heaven, they're not going to ask you about anybody else. They're going to ask you about what you did. and how you treated people. Now, it's not going to be about Sam and Bob kissing in their own house, in the comfort of their own house, where they're married and they're happy. God is not going to ask you about Sam and Bob. They're going to ask you about you. And that's the truth. We get so focused on other people's lives. We get so focused on what other people are doing with their lives that we can't live our lives. You know how sad that is? To be so intertwined and so focused on other people, we can't live our lives. And it's so sad. I mean, I never was that nosy to where I didn't know anything about myself, but I knew everything about everybody else. I am so out of the mix wherever I go. I can see something because I'm very perceptive. I'm very perceptive. Like I can see things and notice things and like, okay, well, I see this and that, and keep it pushing. That's the problem. We don't keep it pushing. We don't keep it pushing. We want to be nosy. We want to dig in here. Let's dig in there. Let's really, no, that's the problem. God is not going to ask you about them. God is going to ask you about you. What did you do? How did you treat people? How did you make other people feel? That's what God's going to ask you. That's what God's going to ask you. He's not going to ask you about nobody else. I promise you he's not. They're not. I don't like saying there. God is there. Anyway, but that's all I got to say about Christianity. I'm associated with the religion. Yes. I believe in God 100%. Do I believe in the certain people in Christianity and how they treat other people? No. I wish that we could just change that about ourselves just a little bit, more of an inward experience with God more than an outward one. Because when you're so inwardly focused, when you're so in tune with yourself and with God, that's when people can see, oh, God is doing this in your life. Maybe I need to get me some God too. Maybe I need a little scoop of God in my morning. Maybe I need to start praying in the morning, right? Smith had just a beautiful day in the morning. He ain't cussing nobody out today. Oh, I heard him listening to some gospel this morning. Boom. It's not going to work the way you think it's going to work. I promise you. It's not going to happen how you think it's going to happen. God did not tell you to go out there. And if he did, I don't think that's the God that... I think you're talking to the wrong person. I think you're talking to the wrong person. God is not telling you that. I promise you, God is not telling you that. God is not telling you to go attack these people. Go out there and harm people. Why am I'm so tired of going on the internet and seeing my people, my communities, whether they're Black, they're in the LGBTQ plus community, all of these people dying in the streets because you're offended by how they act and who they are. That's crazy to me. Live your life. Focus on you. And I don't care who gets mad. You can dislike this podcast. You can report me. You can do whatever you want to do. It is what it is. I'm not trying to say you have to accept us. I'm not saying you have to accept anything that I'm talking about. But in order for us to grow as human beings, we need to have conversations in the realest way. And that's what this is about, in the realest way. This is what it's about. Having these conversations that need to be had. Because if they're never had and we never have a discussion about it, how is it ever going to change? You have to see that there's a cause and effect. You have to, I promise you, anything, no matter how small it is, no matter how insignificant you think that what you're doing, it doesn't matter. I promise you it does. Everything has a cause and effect. Everything. Every single thing. But yeah. Now, I want to get into another conversation that's going to be a little controversial. Okay? We love a little controversy. But there was a recent time in the military. I can't say too much, but no names will be disclosed in this video. But something happened, and I hate the phrase that they use is, it doesn't matter whether you're Black or white or Hispanic or Asian in the Asian, community. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And I really find that ridiculous. I'm not saying it doesn't matter in... How do I say this? I'm not saying that Of course, it shouldn't matter is the word to say. It shouldn't matter, but it does matter because we all have experiences. We all have went through life differently, and that's what makes us unique and diverse. That's what I mean when people say it doesn't matter. It does. It really does matter. Because even when we're in one thing, right, we want to diversify ourselves so much to where even when we do, we're still a part of a bigger experience. We still need to have that understanding that we're different. And that's what makes us strong. That's the main point of taking this. And there was a time when I was this way and I was in that way. I was like, okay, well, I don't want to talk to certain people because they believe these things. And I don't want to have a conversation with them. And I want to be the only one that's right. And that affects not just my relationships, but other people. Now, the next time they have a conversation, they're not going to want to. And they're going to shut their selves off because the way I went about it was wrong. And in order to change how other people, not even change, to open their mind about other things and different ways of thinking about stuff, we have to be okay with them not understanding. Because they're not going to understand if you're yelling in their face. They're not going to understand why saying the N-word, if you're not in the Black community, is literally affecting us in the wrong way. They're not going to understand that. If you're yelling in their face and cussing them out, they're not going to understand. And yes, there's been points when I tried to explain myself to people and they didn't understand. So then when I tried to explain myself again, I would get frustrated and now I would yell and I would be this way and that way. And then there was a point when I just decided not to say anything anymore. I just was like, okay, I'm not your mother. I'm not your mother. I'm not going to keep explaining myself. So there has definitely been times when I was challenged and I was put to the test. And I don't know where I stand right now in terms of that. I do know that I'm willing to have conversations with people who are willing to have honest conversations with me about sexuality, about anything, race, all these things. I want to have a conversation because I want to understand where you're coming from. Why do you think that way? Is it because of how you were brought up? Well, probably yes. So let's talk about that. I want to understand what made you think that way? What triggered you to be that way? That's what I want to learn. And that's what I want to have a conversation about. And again, I'm not saying everything I talked about before on my podcast episodes, they were meaningless, but they were stepstones. And this one is a stepping stone to get to where I need to be, to where I know I can be. I said it in the beginning, I do not know who I am right now. I literally, every time I think about it, like, well, I feel like I'm being birthed every day. And it's not like a birth of like, okay, well, like, oh my goodness, you're somebody new. It's like a birth of like, okay, I'm like a butterfly and I came from here and I'm in the cocoon now. And I'm like, I don't see myself fully. Does that make sense? But I know that I'm changing every day. And every day I'm figuring something else out and I'm learning something else. And that's the beauty of life. The beauty of life. Also, I made podcast episodes before about relationships and how, environments, and you can leave this environment. You don't have to stay in this environment. You can create your own environment. And I got to a place where I'm happy with. I can still show love to people who I'm not friends with, but I care about them very dearly. I can still show them love, still support them, still go as far as I know that I am willing to go and be happy and be content and not have to ask for more from them people. And I seen this quote on the internet and it was like, when we meet people, like when it's two people, we both have expectations of each other and we are never meeting the person. We're meeting what they think of us as. So if I think this way of you and you think this way of me, we're meeting those two things. We're not meeting each other, which was so interesting to me. And I was like, I know exactly what you're talking about because I made a podcast about it. And I was like, I would always have the expectation of what I wanted other people to be in my life. As soon as I see you, oh, I want you to be this way. They didn't even agree. Who said that's what they wanted? Who even told you that they even agreed to that? Now you're sitting here mad because you want them to be this way. And if they try to be that way, it's unnatural. It's not going to work because that's not who they are. It's okay. Ask them, hey, what you want from me? You know, I do it all the time now. I'm like, okay, like, look, like, I don't even want to play no games with you. What you want? Say it right now. Lay it on the table so I can see it clear as day. I do not mind it at all. I don't mind it. Just tell me, oh, you want to just do this? You want to just punch and munch? Bye. I ain't got the time for you in the world. You can see the door. I respect you for saying how you felt. And there's somebody out there that's just for you. That's just for that very thing. You want to go out there and do your thing, and you can do it. It just won't be with me. Now, if you want to be in a polygamous relationship, you ain't going to have me either. But honesty is key. Honesty is key. Be honest in the beginning. Be upfront with what you want and what you expect from other people. So later down in the line, there's no confusion and there's no complications with the relationship. So yeah, I'm very happy for where I am. I wasn't before. Yesterday I was crying. I can't. One thing about me, I'm gonna have a dramatic breakdown, honey. But those breakdowns are meant to lift me back up. Okay. I love when I get in those stages in my life. I didn't like it before, when I would be broken down and destroyed and defeated, and I would be all of these things, all these negative emotions. Before I would be so frustrated about it, and I would be so angry about it, because I'm like, well, why do I have to feel this way? Well, I don't deserve this. And I never looked at it as an opportunity to grow and to become a different person, to be a better person. I never looked at it that way. And once I started looking at it that way of, okay, well, this happened to me. Well, what did I take out of it? This relationship didn't work out, but why didn't it work out? And what did I cause in this relationship for it not to work? Oh, I didn't communicate as well as I should have. I understand that. Now I can take that with me into the next relationship. So when I get there, I can be the best version of who I can for these people. That's what you do. You take something out of every experience, everything, even if it's a good experience. Don't take out the success about it, the victory. Yeah, that's all handy and dandy. But what was the things that happened along the way that got you there? Take something out of every exchange that you have with people, places, and things. Take something out of it. Get something from it. I got something. I'm every day I'm literally looking back in my past and I'm picking, okay, well, this is why that happened and this is why that happened. I'm going to take it with me so I know in the future that sometimes we are the demise in our lives. We cause the demise. We cause ourselves to fall short of everything that we can be because we're not willing to accept that this is what we did before and it's not working right now. I used to just cuss people out every day, and that used to work for me to where I was, and you see where that got me. I don't do that anymore as much. I had to add that as much. I don't do it as much anymore. I'm getting to a point where I don't even have to. You can just have it. Bye. It's all yours. You want a beef? You can have that right there. You want all the beef? You can go to the store, honey. You ain't gonna get it from me. I'm getting to a point where I'm okay with not being like, you know how when you're younger and you're arguing with your siblings and you got to have the last word. I'm really getting to a point where I don't care anymore. You can have the last word. You can feel how you want to feel. It doesn't change how I feel. It doesn't change who I am as a person. And that's the main point of perception over reality. In the military, it's always perception is reality, which I find is ridiculous because I don't care what your perception is. It's not my reality. It's not. Perception is not reality, but perception can become reality for other people. How people perceive you is their reality, and you can't take away how they feel about you. If people don't like you, it has nothing to do with you and all to do with them. That is all in their circle. Now, I'm not saying you can't be an asshole because I know a lot of people who are some assholes, okay? And I've been an asshole to some people in their lives numerous times, but that's all self-reflection, and it's all in your perception of life. And once you figure out the perception of life and the values that you want out of yourself and from other people coming into your life, that's when you can start, I got something going now. I got a car cranked up and I can keep it crunk, crunk, crunk. And eventually that car's going to start and it's going to go and go and go and go and go. And it's going to be easier to start it over and over again once you start implementing the healthy things that you need to have in your life. But you have to start doing those small, tedious, very annoying things that you don't want to do. There's times when I'm like, okay, I'm healed, I'm growing, I get triggered, boom, I'm back to square one. I'm over here cussing Bob out for saying some crazy thing to me or doing something crazy to me that I have the right to be angry about. I have the right to be angry. But I had to understand that there's other ways to go about it. And I ain't got to cuss Sam out. Or I said, Bob, whoever it was, I ain't got to cuss them out. I ain't got to cuss them out. I ain't got to say a thing to them. I can, of course, state my boundaries and everything and keep it pushing. But I done got to a point where I don't even bother no more. And as y'all know, it is November. It is mental health month for males, for men. Whatever you want to, if you want to categorize yourself as a man, it is our month. Okay. If you want to be it's our month, right? And I want to have a guest on that conversation, a topic about men and mental health. I want to have a conversation because when I growed up, I had male figures in my life, but they weren't as prominent as the women, the females, the women in my life that I had when I was growing up. They weren't as prominent as them. So I want to have a conversation. I want to understand how were you brought up and what did this happen and how did that, I want to have conversations with those people and I want to understand their mindset, especially in this month, right? I think we all need to have conversations, honest conversations. It is very much needed. Excuse me. But yeah, I like this podcast episode. A podcast episode gonna be good when it start flowing and it starts going and it just keeps going and going and going. Last weekend, when I kid you not, I'm sitting here like, okay, I said this, boom, okay. I talked about this, boom, I got this. I don't want to have to stress about having a conversation. I just want to have the conversation in a meaningful way. And again, I was trying to force myself to be a certain way, and I didn't understand until this time how easy it is to make a podcast episode where I am right now if I started being who I was right now. And I was not putting off this conversation about sexuality. Well, I was, because a lot of people in my life that are not actually currently in my life, they all have their own opinions about it, and they all don't agree with it. And I don't care anymore. I don't care if you don't accept me. We don't care if you don't accept us. The main issue of it all is the simple fact that you don't want us to live and you don't want us to be happy. And that is the issue. Okay. That is the problem. So yeah, I'm very grateful. I'm just very happy to be where I am right now. I made a vlog, I believe last weekend, or was it the weekend after, before that? Either way, I made a vlog that was amazing. Honestly, that vlog stressed me out. It stressed me out so much, that editing and just being vulnerable. Like I made a podcast episode with Travis about vulnerability. It was part 1 and part 2. And there is been plenty of times, especially when I was vlogging, when I was out by myself, where I had to be vulnerable. And even adding, of course, vlogging in front of all these people and they're looking at you is like, what are you doing? Like, of course, there's like a sense of vulnerability about it. But just simply going out, because I never had enjoyment for myself. Of course, I went out. I did those things, but I was always with other people. And I never did anything. Hey, this is a Smith day. I'm going to go out and I'm going to do something for me. I never had those days. And when I did have those days, I was in this room recording a podcast episode and pushing it out and editing the entire day. That's what I was doing. So I was very much uncomfortable. I had to be uncomfortable so I can get to where I am right now. So the next time I go out, it can be a little easier for me. But I was full of anxiety. On the way there, I was like, out of nowhere, I started like breathing heavy. And I was like, okay, well, what's going on? Like I was so like, you would think I was like going somewhere that was like, I don't know, like something that gave you anxiety. Fuck, I was in a horror movie or something. Like I knew where I was going. I knew that it was somewhere that was safe, but I don't know. I knew why. I was uncomfortable. That's the whole point. The point was I was uncomfortable. I didn't know how to be in that state. So I had to be vulnerable. I had to feel attacked for a moment to realize that it's not actually that bad. And it is what it is. I have to be okay with myself. I seen a video today before I recorded, and they were talking about, what did she say? How when all of her friends were in relationships and doing all these things, she was working on herself. And she realized that in working on yourself and investing all that time into yourself, it actually brings about other people who are doing the same things. So when you come together, it is something that is beautiful. And it is something that is amazing because you're doing the work that you need to do in order to work efficiently and effectively with other people. Especially when you get down to the nitty gritty of not just being friends. Of course, that is very, very important, but romantic relationships where you're actually living with this person. We want all the, and this is one thing about humans. We want these attainable things, right? We want a partner. We want this and we want that. But when it comes to putting in the work to get it, that's when you want to stop and we want to say, hey, actually, I don't think I want to do that anymore. No, and it's going to be, everything that is worth doing is going to be hard. It's going to be a challenge. You're going to struggle. That's okay. And it's okay that you feel uncomfortable and you feel a sense of vulnerability about it. It's okay. You're going to need it. And it's going to push you forward. I promise you. And I tell you, I had to get to that point in my life. I had to. So, yeah. I want to say something about my current life, about what's going on. Same old things. The same old thing. I'm pursuing, this thing. Hopefully one day it just booms, just erupts like a volcano, and everybody that was sitting on the backside can see. You know what Marquis actually had it. He had it in him. I do. I got it in me. What the thing they say? It ain't on me. It's in me. It ain't on me, honey. It's in me. And I'm gonna be successful. And it may not be how I think it's gonna be, but I know it's gonna happen. I know I'm gonna be successful. I just know it. I know it. I can feel it in my soul, in my spirit. I'm going to be up there and I'm going to help people. I'm going to love people. Oh, I wanted to talk about that too. Despite the struggles that I face in my life, despite the difficulties that I go through, I'm going to always continue to lead with love, or try to. There's days when I choose violence out of the love or the fear of losing myself, but I'm always going to try to pursue love. No matter how you make me feel, no matter how angry I am, no matter how tired I am of this life and of living, I'm going to choose love. I'm going to choose patience. I'm going to choose to respect myself. I'm going to choose to do the healthy things that need to be done. And when we're triggered and we're caused to go back on these sets, we have to realize that we were traumatized and we were hurt, and it was not of our choice to be that way. But it is our obligation. It is our right to take care of ourselves and do the healing and everything that we need in order to get the most out of this life. Because we only have it one time. And if you believe that you have it more than one time, still get the best of it, okay? Whatever you believe, still absorb all of the beauty and everything amazing about it. And yesterday, it was very, very emotional. But before it was emotional, it was beautiful. And it hit me that this morning when I was reading this quote about the thought process, all the beautiful things that happen in life happens when you're not thinking. And when I was just living and I wasn't thinking about anything, I was just living. And that's when I was really happy. That's when my heart just glowed inside. And I was so, warmy and fuzzy because I'm always thinking, and I'm always the what's that thing? The being clocks, whatever it is, the mechanism's always grinding, turning, and you know what I'm saying? It's like always going through something. So once I got to a point where I was like, okay, you know what? I'm actually living a little bit more. I'm actually enjoying myself a little bit more because I'm not thinking about this and this and that. I'm really absorbing it and I'm really taking it in. I'm really taking it in and I'm really living in the moment. I'm not thinking about it. I'm just doing it. We need to start just doing stuff. Let's not think about it. What are we thinking about it for? Of course, cause and effect, right? But when we want to go out here and we want to make a podcast episode, we want to vlog, just let's get into it. Let's start doing it. It's not going to happen unless you do it, unless you press play. And it was uncomfortable at first, but it's getting more comfortable right now. You listen to my first podcast episode and come listen to this one. I believe it was Meeting People Where They Are was the first one. This ain't the same person. It may sound like it. You may think that, but I'm not the same person as I was when I made my first podcast episode. I'm not the same person that you know when I made the last one. I'm different. A couple podcast episodes ago, you could have said, "You know what, Smith? Do you know who you are?" And I would have said, "Most definitely, I know who I am." Right now, don't got a clue. I know I'm going to lead with love. I know I care about people. I know all of these traits that I have about myself, these values. I know that about myself. Those are not the things that are being questioned and that are coming up and I don't know. It's the entirety of who I am. And of course, I am those things. But when I wake up, there's something I'm missing. There's something missing. You got to find what's missing. I ask God every day, push me forward to where I can do that and I can find that. And I'm going to get there. I don't care how long it takes. I am 21 years old. If it takes me 40 to even realize that, it takes me 40 years. Well, not 40 years. It takes me till I'm 40. I don't care. But I'm going to get to where I know I can be for myself. Because at the end of the day, yes, there's going to be people who help you find, they can light the torches to get you to where you need to be. They can help you. They can guide you. But at the end of the day, it takes your 2 feet. It takes you and whatever you believe in to get you to where you know that you can be. It's not going to be other people. They're going to help you, but it's at the end about you. You, if you want this, you got to go get it. Nobody else can, like I use the example, nobody else can work out for you at the gym and you start getting buff or whatever you want. You want to lose weight. It's not going to happen. It's going to work for them. It's not going to work for you. You have to be that person that you want to be and want that change in your life. You're going to have to be that person who changes. It's that simple. And I ain't got nothing else to say about that. But to close this podcast episode out, I want to just go back and recap about everything that I said. And about sexuality, I'm going to continue to be exactly who I am until it no longer serves me and I become a different person, a better person. And about everything about who you are, I'm going to continue to be authentically me, whether it's with the color of my skin and whatever I believe in. I'm going to continue to authentically believe in love and lead with love. And I want to start this segment off at the end where I talk about something that's real, but I don't know how I'm going to implement it yet, but I will implement it starting on the next podcast episode. So, like I say at the end of every podcast episode, I give thanks to the utmost, to the highest power, God. I'm so, so thankful. I'm thankful for my friends and my family. I am truly, truly grateful. This is NTheRealestWay podcast, out.